In this section, we are going to cover tabs. Let's have a look. This is what we are going to create. We have a basic set of widgets inside of one tab, then we have another tab with some other widgets. The widgets in here work as expected, and you can just play around with them. This is what we're going to create. And the widget we need is called TTK Notebook. The way this is going to work is that we want to set a couple of children to this notebook. This is almost certainly going to be a frame. And each frame is then going to become a tab. Since you can add lots of widgets to a frame, you can use that system to make widgets visible or invisible. It's honestly a fairly simple system. Here's the code. If I execute all of this, we have a basic window. And I want to create a tab widget. Or rather, I want to create a notebook. Let me call it notebook. And the widget we need is TTK and notebook. This one is going to have the window as the parent. I can pack this notebook right away, although by default, we can't see anything. The notebook by itself is going to be invisible. The only thing you are going to see are the tabs inside of it. Since we don't have any tabs right now, nothing is going to be visible. Which means I have to create a couple, let me call it tab 1, and this is going to be TTK and frame. For the parent, I now want to set the notebook. While we are here, I want to create a second tab. I'm going to call it tab 2, and this one also has the parent as the notebook. With this, I can run this again. We still can't see anything. What we now have to do is inside of the notebook, we have to add, and this is going to be tab 1, and this wants to have a text. This text is going to be the name of the tab. I'm going to call this one tab 1, then I can duplicate it and change this 1 to a 2. And now we should be seeing something. There we go. We now have 2 tabs. Which means you can just place widgets inside of either of the frame, and then they're going to be visible inside of the respective tab. For example, inside of tab 1, I'm going to add a tiny bit of white space. I'm going to call this tab 1. Inside of tab 1, I want to create a label with TTK and label. This one is tab 1 for the master, and for text, I want to have text in tab 1. Don't forget to pack this widget. And with that, we can see we now have some text in the first tab. Although tab 2 doesn't have anything right now, but we certainly have a good start. In the demo inside of the first tab, I also had a button. Let me call it button 1, TTK and button, with tab 1 as the parent, and the text is going to be button in tab 1. Besides that, I also have to pack this button, and now we have text and we have a button inside of tab number 1. Tab number 2 still doesn't have anything. All of that is going to happen inside of tab 2. In here, I want to create label 2, which is going to be TTK and label with tab 2 as the parent. The text is going to be, I guess, text in tab 2 makes the most sense here. This label 2 I also want to pack. I have text and a button in the first tab, and in tab number 2, I have tab 2. So this is working quite well. There's also going to be an entry. Let me call it entry 2, and this is going to be TTK and entry inside of tab 2, and there's nothing else in here, and entry 2 and pack. And now we have the stuff you have seen in the demo. Honestly, this wasn't very difficult. All of these widgets work like anything else. If you understand how to set the master, this system should be really, really simple. Or at least I hope it is. Which means we can already do a challenge. What I want you guys to do is to add another tab with some buttons and text inside. Let's say with 2 buttons and 1 label, to be a bit more specific. Pause the video now and try to figure this one out. I want to start by creating another frame. This I'm going to store inside of tab exercise, and it's going to be a TTK and frame, with the parent being the notebook. Inside of that, I want to create button exercise 1 with TTK and button, the parent being tab exercise, and the text could be button 1. It doesn't really matter what it is. This button exercise 1, I also want to pack, and with that I can just copy the entire thing and add another button here. All I have to do now is change the 1 to a 2. The 1 in the name or the text should also be a 2. That is going to give us the buttons. Besides that, I want to copy this one more time. I want to create a label, which I get with TTK and label. This is going to be label. There we go. Now we are packing this one as well. With this, we have all of the widgets and the frame to put them inside. Next up, I want to get the notebook and add my tab exercise like we have seen up here, which means besides that, I need a text, and this is going to be tab exercise. Let's try this one now. And there we go. We have tab 1, we have tab 2, and we have tab exercise with button 1, button 2, and the label. That's pretty much it. I hope you can see how this system is fairly straightforward. There shouldn't be too much that can go wrong. I guess the one thing you want to be aware of is that this frame here, or these frames here, are not going to be packed themselves. For that, we're using this add method. For completion here, you don't actually have to set the notebook as the parent. For example, if I change this notebook to a window and run this again, we get the very same outcome. Although all of these other widgets do need the frame as the parent. I just think setting the notebook as the parent makes the most sense here, but choose whatever you want. In this case, it doesn't make too much of a difference.